Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming here today. Let's talk about a theory, right? As you see in the title, about how we could get a $500,000 Bitcoin this bull run. So, there's a couple things I need to start off right away with. The first one is I don't think this is going to happen, right? I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys, or at least is the most that I can be. I don't believe this is going to happen. However, I was asked a couple of times, do I think that Bitcoin's going to get to $1 million this cycle? No, no, it's not, guys. You're going to hear people say it. You're going to hear people say it more and more, but no fucking way. It's not going to get to $1 million this year. I've been asked before if I think it's ever going to get to $1 million, and I really don't think it will. Right? I did a small video on that in the past. And people disagree with me, which is perfectly fine. We need to have people that kind of don't really agree with things to have a healthy market. The short of all that is for it to be worth $1 million, you have to have people that are willing to buy it at $1 million, and more so have people that are willing to hold it and not sell it for any profit that they made at $1 million. And I just don't see a world where that's going to happen, like ever. I do think eventually it's going to be at this 500,000, $500,000, but I don't see it really happening this cycle, but I do see a way it could. So, even if it's where I don't think it's in the realistic nature, I see a way with if all the stars align correctly, everything happens the right way, it could do it. And that's what I want to talk about today. All right. So, how is Bitcoin going to get this high? So, for it to happen, after a certain price point, we have to realize that retail, us, the small investors, aren't going to be involved anymore, right? The Bitcoin is already priced higher than what the average person can buy, right? Like the most people cannot afford to invest into $100,000 into a Bitcoin, right? That's just not the average person. So we already took out a major component of who can invest into it. And yet you can buy fractions of it for sure. And people have, and they continue to will. But people are going to end up looking to see, is it worth putting in their hard-earned cash into a fraction of a Bitcoin that's worth, again, even now at $100,000, let alone 200, 300, 400,000, or hey, we should buy gold, or we should buy Ethereum, or we should buy real estate, or we should buy this. Right? They're going to go for other very safe things. They're going to warn them about the same percentage yield because the price at which Bitcoin goes up will slow down over time. So for than it is now, more and more large companies, corporations, states, and countries have to keep buying it, which they are. They definitely are. And at this point, most of retail that is getting Bitcoin is doing it through ETFs. So they're not buying a full Bitcoin now anyway. But we are having increased corporation interest, right? I mean, we've got Strategy, Michael Saylor, he's the main one that is buying, essentially making a Bitcoin reserve for himself and his company. He says he's never going to sell. Thoughts on that, we'll end up finding out. Right? We have GameStop talking about it. Meta, I think they just voted no against it, but more companies are talking about it. Microsoft, and a lot of them will eventually do it, I think. We've got different states here in the US that are getting Bitcoin reserves or trying to pass out legislation for it. Different countries, the US, right? Buying and do it in reserve. And we might want to say, right, like, oh, those are big entities. They're going to be buying a lot. Well, a lot of them are also trying to make money. And they even think that right now Bitcoin is priced pretty high for them. And here's my evidence to support that. Things like here in the US, so they're opening a Bitcoin reserve. They're not using new money to buy Bitcoin, right? They're not using tax dollars. They're not using money that they're pulling from different government agencies. They're going to transfer other assets into Bitcoin or continue pretty much grab stolen Bitcoin that someone else stole. The government grabs a hold of it and says, we will have it now. And that's where most of their reserves started, by the way. They can transfer gold or oil or stocks and bonds into Bitcoin, but they're not going to be using new money for it. They're using money that they already have in different places. And that's what a lot of countries and states are doing, right? So there's only so much that's going to go up for that. And they have a plan of how much they're going to buy. based off of the price. So they even have themselves already capped at how much they're willing to spend and how much they're willing to spend per Bitcoin. They just haven't fully shared that information with us. But even countries with trillions of GDP have a number that they're not willing to overpay for. My guess is that's far less than $1 million. But the whole title of this video and the purpose of this was tell you how I think it could happen, right? And I think I started to develop a little bit of that with the companies, states, and governments. Let me give you the big thing that if it's going to happen, this is how it's going to happen, in my opinion, is supply shock, right? And if I just had a couple people roll their eyes saying, we heard about this last cycle of, yeah, you did. It wasn't nearly as realistic last cycle. They were saying it as a hype thing to get you to buy Bitcoin. The numbers are actually out to where it very well is feasible to have a supply shock. Not saying a supply shock is going to cause it to be 500,000, but I think it's a requirement to make it jump up that high. So real quick, if you don't know what a supply shock is, it's where the supply goes, or sorry, the demand goes a lot higher than the supply, right? There is a finite amount of Bitcoin, and it only gets mined or created at a certain rate, and that rate will never get faster. It actually slows down every 4 years. So the supply is finite and slowing down. And a lot of people are accumulating Bitcoin left and right. Correct? I mean, we got the EFTs that are going up. Again, already kind of mentioned about everyone that's buying it. And there is crypto on exchanges that we do, right? The small man, right? Retail. We'll go on Coinbase, Binance, Solana, whatever. We'll buy our crypto on centralized and decentralized exchanges. That's not what the whales do. That's not what Michael Saylor does. That's not what Microsoft or governments are going to do. They do something that they buy over the counter, which, God, that's such a stupid name because it's not what we think it was over the counter. It's actually more of a backdoor deal where every large exchange, Coinbase, for example, has a small little supply called over the counter, small in comparison, of Bitcoin sitting there that they'll only sell to people who want to buy millions of dollars or more at a time. And they do it. Market valuation is, it's usually a little bit less, somewhat non-disclosed. And so let's say if Michael Saylor from Strategy wants to buy another 10,000 Bitcoin just because it's a random Tuesday, he's not going to hop on the computer, go on exchange and buy it. He does it over the counter, gets a hold of those people, they make a deal, and they send him privately the Bitcoin. The reason why they do this is that it doesn't change really the price action in the market, so to speak. Because every time Michael Saylor has bought billions of dollars of Bitcoin, have you noticed that the price hasn't changed? And the little bit when it does change, it happened the first couple of times it was majorly announced on media, because media talked about it. So everyone's like, oh, Bitcoin's being bought by the billions, let's get into it. But him himself buying it doesn't change the price action because it's not on the market. It's over the counter or the back door. We're running out of that supply. So there's estimated for over the counter holdings, only about 120,000 Bitcoin remaining. And to go ahead and compare that to last cycle, when everyone was talking about a supply shock, there was 480,000 at the lowest amount, right? So what is that, a quarter? Actually, that's exactly a quarter, right? There's 75% less Bitcoin now over the counter for these large agencies to buy than what there was 4 years ago. It's getting close to a supply shock where if people keep on buying over the counter, they're going to now have to buy on exchanges, which means when countries, states, large corporations buy Bitcoin soon, they're going to have to do it on Coinbase, Binance, etc. And that's going to then make the price boom because now it matters for the market, so to speak. Again, that's going to make a huge increase in the Bitcoin. I don't think that alone will take it from 100,000, or even if it's up to 150,000 by then, up to 500. But if it's up to like 150,000 or so, it could get close to doubling it. Like I could make it go from 150 up to somewhere between 200 and 300,000, just because people they're going to press this in the media of we're running out of Bitcoin. As soon as that announcement happens, everyone and their mother and their dead grandparents somehow are going to go ahead and buy Bitcoin because now it's almost gone. And I think that's going to be a requirement to be able to hit this 500,000 Bitcoin this cycle. And so if we have a supply shock, it's likely, not guaranteed, but likely. And then a lot of people flood in with at least tens of millions of dollars at a time, raise it up, and people do not sell a lot for profit. Because realize that's a big thing too. If we have Bitcoin go from 150,000 up to even just 200, just 200,000. Remember a couple of years ago when that was a pipe dream? But anyway, if it goes up just to 200, 225,000, you bet your ass people are going to be selling Bitcoin left and right, uh, because they're going to take profits. There are people that still own Bitcoin when they bought it at $15,000, right? And you're going to have countries that are going to buy it. You're going to have the really intelligent individuals or individual companies that are willing to risk it if it doesn't work out to sell most of their Bitcoin, see the price drop, and then buy back in to get more Bitcoin. And again, this is going to, at some point, cause the price to stabilize. It's going to have to blast through that fact. So there's going to have to be a lot of media attention. There's going to have to be a supply shock. There's going to have to be some sort of, in my opinion, formal announcement globally that pushes, hey, Bitcoin is the next gold. Not that it could be, but it is. And we're going to have to convince a lot of investors that put into the stock market and a lot of those Fortune 500 or 200 companies that put back in the stock market, move their money into Bitcoin, then we could see it happen. I don't think that's going to happen this bull run. I think it's much more likely to happen in the next 3 to 10 years, the next cycle or so. So with that all being said, let me know what you guys think. Do you think Bitcoin's going to hit 500,000 this year? I've been saying for a while 125K. I'm starting to think I lowballed it a little bit. I really don't think it's going to go over 175. Like that candlewick approach. But again, everything I said could come in a factor and go past that. But I will be shocked if it goes past 175K personally without a major supply shock. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think I lowballed it? Do you think that I don't know what the bleep I'm talking about, and it's if we blink tomorrow, it's going to be 300,000? Let me know in the comments down below. Very curious your guys' opinion and take on this one. Let me know.